Set nearly 1,000 years before the events in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion and the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls Online lets you take part in the stories set within the compelling history and deep lore of the Elder Scrolls franchise. Designed to be played exactly the way you want to play, you can start wherever you like. With no level restrictions and no subscription required, this massive world is yours to explore, alone or with friends. Choose a favorite location or storyline and jump in. From the capital cities of the Three Alliances to the magical Somerset Isles. From the Khajiit territory of Elsewhere to Morrowind, the home of the Dark Elves. From frozen Skyrim in the north to the endless swamps of Blackmarsh. Adventures everywhere. Are you ready to find legend? Options for creating and personalizing characters. The Scrolls Online are almost without limit. Choose from 9 different character races, with a 10th race option available as an add-on. Select from 6 unique classes then to fill exactly the role you want to play. Want to create a high elf sorcerer who wears heavy armor and wields daggers for close quarters combat? Why not? Or maybe a red guard dragon knight who prefers light armor and bow. It's completely up to you. Earn skill points as you adventure across Tamriel to improve your character, then master and customize your skills to match your style of play. Out of the world, keep an eye out. For every 3 of these rare crystals you collect, you point to spend on your character. The in-game skill advisor provides recommendations on how to best spend your points based on the different roles available to your character. And you can always reset your skills and reallocate your points whenever you visit a major city, so you can build and play the exact character imagine. Go anywhere, do anything. That's the freedom present in the Elder Scrolls Online. Scales your character to the content, so explore any dark cave or mysterious that intrigue. Different levels all belong to different alliances. Dive into the rich and varied story content, or join a group to take on the most dangerous dungeons and boss monsters. During your character, select one of the 3 alliances competing in this era. The Ebonheart Pact, or the Old Mary Dominion. Each alliance features a unique and compelling line, but choice never precludes you from playing with friends of different lives. The Elder Scrolls Online is designed so you can pair at any time, no matter your level or alliance. Tamriel is a dangerous place. We not sneak or talk your way out of conflict. You have to fight. The Elder Scrolls Online features an action reminiscent of the classic Elder Scrolls games. Use your skills, special abilities, and of light and heavy attacks to defend yourself and your while you obliterate your unleash powerful sin as part of the group, and use block and dodge to avoid any attacks. If you prefer skiing to direct combat, use stealth to evade detection, get around obstacles, or even set yourself up to unleash a potent surprise attack. Even the best solo player needs a little help now and then. Use the group and activity finder and the friends list to team up with other players for a dungeon or other adventure. Elder Scrolls Online community is extremely welcoming to new players, invites them to join in. Our players go out of their way to help new players and them the ins and outs of adventuring, especially evident within player guilds. A great way to meet others, develop lasting relationships that game. Join a guild with resources, tackle content, or please latest revelation of lore. There are also in-game guilds your character can join to receive new skill options and special rewards. The Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, and the Thieves Guild are all accessible through story content. And for a real challenge, join the Undaunted and earn a unique skill line and extra rewards for tackling group dungeons. Dungeons present some of the most difficult and dangerous content available in the Elder Scrolls Online. From the small dungeon delves that challenge solo players, to dungeons that require 4 players to take on, the ultimate 12-person trials. These strange and wondrous places offer amazing visuals, complex battles, unlike anything else in the game. Once your character's 10th level and you have a better understanding of the game, the Elder Scrolls Online gives you the option to participate in a variety of player-to-player or PvP content. Duels offer a more intimate PvP experience, where you can test or try out a new character build in one-on-one against another player. Present short 4-person teams take on 15-minute battles to earn achievements. Alliances are large-scale battles fight for control of Cyrodiil, with siege weapons and massive armies, fight to capture and defend keeps and win the day. While you adventure and lore, don't forget to collect the resources you find scattered throughout the world. These items can be used to craft weapons, armor, food, potions, and accessories that you use to improve or for your character. Develop your skills in one or more professions and improve them by completing specialized crafting bits. The professions include alchemy, blacksmithing, enchanting, clothing, woodworking, provisioning, and jewelry crafting. The Elder Scrolls Online provides players with the ability to own and personalize homes for their characters all across Tamriel. Homes can be acquired by completing quests, purchased through the Crown Store, or bought with in-game gold. Houses consist of single-room abodes to multi-chambered mansions. But nothing beats the opulence or grandeur of a manor house, complete with luxury accommodations for your character and up to 20 guests. Home ownership doesn't end there. Craft furnishings to personalize, improve, and decorate your home. There'll never be jump in and start playing the Elder Scrolls Online with access to a multitude of adventures all the width and the Tamriel, and the freedom to play wherever and however you like. It's time to begin your Elder Scrolls story.
Thanks, Mel. Really appreciate that. We're celebrating 10 years of Elder Scrolls Online. It's a super fun thing. Hopefully, you guys are having a good day and a good drive wherever you're driving, and hopefully, you get to where you're trying to get safely. That's some really good stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of look into doing some study here on the news section here for Elder Scrolls. It's an important thing for us to be connected. If we can't be connected to the main things, how are we able to speak to each other like from a distance, um, like 5 feet away, or like 100 miles away, or like overseas, such as in Amsterdam today? How are we able to talk to each other if we don't have a connection? So as you kind of saw here in the video that is done every day, Monday through Friday, this is a great thing to getting involved with. And so I'm going to be looking in here, and hopefully you'll be able to study with me. Thanks, guys, for over that are in Discord. For those of you guys that are connected up and trying to stay connected up with all of us, it's an important thing to me, and I'm fairly certain that it's important to you guys to be connected as well. Um, these connections go out to multiple places, and that's a tough thing to learn. So this is kind of the learning stage here in the news section, as we are going to be receiving in some of the consoles. There's going to be a couple of different things that we're going to be receiving today, and I'm gonna get right back to. And right now, I just wanted to switch the screen over here into the daily login rewards of this month. This is a fun thing, getting ready for the next chapter. Lots of work, lots of hard work. Some of the things are just merely impossible to think about. And so what I'm going to go over with you guys is the daily login rewards here. Currently, if you have your Steam console ready, you can log into your Steam console, and you should be receiving a soul gem here today. That helps the in-game play with reviving a player or companion in the game. Super sweet. If you've ever gotten a soul gem in the game and then revived the player, you know how awesome that is. That's an awesome thing to be connected, and that's all part of the game in reviving another player or a companion. It helps. It's more important that we're able to revive other players in the game, so we can stay in the game, so we can stay connected. Essentially, that's the important thing. Those of you guys over on Xbox, we're going to be receiving an experience score. And in PlayStation, I'm not sure because I don't have the complete PlayStation console just yet. Quite possibly here in the future, I'll get a PlayStation console. But for right now, just gonna do get a little bit of experience with the experience scroll that's being presented here for today. And that's some good study with us getting the experience scroll, because that involves with the Tamriel clock. The Tamriel clock add-on has just been a new addition in Elder Scrolls here in the recent past. So that's some learning experience as we're trying to relate to the real-time clock. When it involves the real-time clock, that's some serious stuff. You know, thinking about what day it is. Currently here in the local time zone, it's the day is April 11th. In some parts of the world, it's April 12th. With us getting the Tamriel clock working properly, that helps us get the correct time, whether it's over in the NA server or over in the EU server. Those are the two main servers that are known in Elder Scrolls throughout the world. So that kind of gives you guys more of an understanding of wanting to get involved in ESO online. ESO online is right here, and as you see the daily login rewards, that's what you guys are going to be receiving. We're in a little bit um, of a pickle because here about 2 or 3 days ago, the system was not fully functioning during the time frame that the servers are on. I couldn't get on to Xbox at the time, and what that had done is that spiraled over to where today over in Steam we're receiving a Soul Gem. If the system in Xbox and I'm assuming PlayStation, if those systems were fully functioning, like all of the systems, the three major consoles for Elder Scrolls, we would all be receiving the Soul Gem. And so those of you guys that don't log in every day, that's not going to bother you too much. But for those of us that log in every day, that does matter to us. And so what I'm explaining is we want to get the daily login rewards working properly each and every day. It's kind of like over if you played the fifth version, you listen to Maribel, and then now you're listening to me. It's kind of like sitting there like doing the day to day functions of the college. It's an important thing for you guys to understand. Not only is Elder Scrolls a video game, but Elder Scrolls is a living video game. And this affects multiple lives with Elder Scrolls. And what I'm talking about with the Tamriel clock, that involves the real-time clock as well. That helps us time the system inside of the screen for the animations. That's an important thing to where we can get the real-time clock working. If we have different times on our devices, well, that's kind of an alert of saying like, hey, does your day say April 11th? Like, no, my day says April 3rd. Well, that's no good. We want to have April 3rd on our devices in the NA server. So looking at that, that's what's going on with the daily login rewards. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch back over to the screen of where we were just here recently. And I'm going to get over here really quick. Let's see here. Is this the one that I was on? There's a lot of screens, so let's see here. There we go. So I'm getting back here. I've got multiple screens on and on the internal device here. I'm gonna see here. Did you guys see the Elder Scrolls Online available now? Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so we got that. That's a good thing. We have the Elder Scrolls, one of the icons available to where we can see. This is some study that's going to go on here of what I'm explaining. Do you see the two screens in here of Elder Scrolls Online? And then do you see the picture of the guys in the celebration that's going on over in Amsterdam currently? The guys are still working in Amsterdam right now, and this is an important thing for us to understand. Some of us are able to communicate with you. This is the first for us to be able to communicate and learning about the screen a little bit more. That's actually dive deeper into the Tamriel clock about for our devices. And so this is a deep study. This is something that most people don't even understand. I don't understand all of this. Nor do most of the guys there in the crowd. Do they probably understand? They're probably just happy that they're over in Amsterdam. And it's like this is a great thing. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to do a little bit of study. I'm going to use what I call ice scroll. Ice scroll is right here, and this is involving going over into Elder Scrolls Wiki. And what I'm talking about with Elder Scrolls Wiki, we want to get iScroll working. Is it are you iScroll or are you uScroll? You see what I'm saying? iScroll means me. Like when I say I'm using iScroll, I'm the one that's going over to iScroll. You see what I'm saying? Now if I were to ask you, are you using uScroll? Well, that means are you going over to iScroll? And so right over here, if some of the guys were to talk about iScroll, they're like, yeah, that's kind of an important thing for us to be able to see each other. And so here it goes right here of what we're using iScroll. I'm gonna scroll up and we'll see what goes on. See what I'm saying right here? You see the picture right here of Gina. I'm gonna go down a little bit further right there. Okay, so we have the connection. This is in real time, so this is an important thing. There we go, right? And right here is where the connection point is for us to learn on the Tamriel clock. Right here of this line that you guys see me going on the mouse pointer. Right here where the real time screen is right here. Well, this is the breaking point of where the connection is. Do you see what I'm saying? When iScroll goes down, that's when the screen switches over to where we can see a smaller screen. Right there. Where you see share broadcast. Okay, so that is the question. Okay, so we've got the two screens available. However, we've been having some problems, somewhat of the when you see the loading bar shouldn't be showing up in the system where you guys see it. It should just be a plain. We're seeing a live stream. You see what I'm saying? This is involving live streaming. Thank you guys for joining in on Discord, for joining up again. I really appreciate you guys coming in and trying to help. I know it's a kind of a difficult thing looking in like on what's going on, and so what I'm going to explain here with the screen, because over in Discord, I'm just going to explain. We have two boxes that we see in Discord. We see a small box and we see a larger box, such as right over here with the guys, right over here in the screen in the live broadcast. So what I'm explaining over in Discord, we have a large screen like this, and we have a small screen like this right here that you guys see right here. Now there's no sound that we hear out of the live broadcast. So how do we get the sound in? Well, we have to have the tools working properly. Now, how are we getting the loading bar coming into the screen? Well, there's some sort of impedance that is intruding upon our screen, where we sometimes we don't see the actual picture, and sometimes where we don't hear the sound. So this is going to involve some study. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a quick break. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your drive and the day, and then we can get into a little bit more on what's going on with the screen, where we have a complete live feed to where we can see each other and we can hear each other. That's an important thing. This is going to get us over into the Tamrielic clock, where we have a perfect clock running each and every day. It's almost perfect. Not exactly perfect. A couple seconds off. And so the previous past current study is it's been a couple of seconds off on the clock. And so doing more animational study is going to be a great growth and experience for us as some of us are receiving an experience scroll in the daily login rewards today. So I will be right back. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your drive. I'll be right back.
Here we all unlocked, so you'll see that there are 6 for the weapon skills, 1 for the Fighters Guild, 1 for the Mages Guild, and 1 for PvP. Today we're gonna take a look at Soul Burst because it's one of my favorites. So Soul Burst, you'll notice from its grimoire description, allows you to pull power from the very core of your being and unleash it in a circle around you, affecting either allies or enemies. So I've selected my grimoire, and I come in and I can immediately see all of the scripts that are relevant for this grimoire and that I have unlocked. So there are quite a few focus scripts that I could choose, whether it's a damage type or a different sort of crowd control or maybe an ally-focused ability. I'm tempted by this one, the pull script. It's one of my favorites. You'll notice that when I add it to the grimoire, it goes ahead and updates both my target type and the cost of the ability. Focus scripts define not only the main function of an ability, but also how much it costs and what resource that is. So once I have selected my focus script, and I'm happy with that, I can go and choose which signature script that I'd like. There are lots of options here, but it's really about what works for you. What do you have in your build that you like? Is there an ability that you're not crazy about that you might want to replace? Is there a strength you want to lean into a weakness you want to shore up. The thing about these abilities is that they're so flexible. You can really choose the right way to customize it for you. For this signature script, I don't really run a lot of healing in my build, so I'm pretty tempted to take healing over time. We'll see that that updates in the tooltip, but then I think about it, and I'm like, you know, because I have chosen an enemy targeted in my pull, healing over time will only impact me. However, if I go back up to scripts and I maybe choose a healing focus, well then that healing over time signature me and my allies in that circular effect. So there's some really interesting decisions that you can make. Do you want to have your build be a little bit more selfish? Do you want it to be more ally focused? And you from there. But you'll notice when I chose that healing focus, some of these signatures became unavailable. It doesn't mean that you can't still use them on this grim you want. You just can't use them in conjunction with that particular focus. So we'll continue with building sort of our ally focused ability. And I really like Expedition. Get a little bit of a bonus movement speed in there. Again, because this is an AoE and this is ally focused, this buff also impact my allies who are in range. So now it's the time to make the thing. It costs 3 inks. Things that you can find as your crafting currency for scribing. The amount of ink charged is equal to the number
data, yeah. Indeed, and yeah, I'm really about the way that it did, completely in detail. The only thing that I had to make this sculpture was pure chalk, some 3D sketches, so it was really from scratch. But it was a blast. So,
first, couldn't he proper chocolate? It's absolutely in real life.
I've heard it a lot. A lot of people came by and like, oh wow, that's a sick cosplay, man. Until that I explained that it was from chocolate and it could be edible to the crumb.
Right. It's absolutely insane. If you have to see it, it's absolutely amazing. So could you tell us what is actually the hardest of making all this?
Definitely color-wise, all the colors correctly, because in the pictures it's of course very in-depth and with a lot of nuances here and there, and also the detailing. As you can see here, we've got all these types of battle scarring and also the straps and stuff like that. So it's the fine detail. Take a lot of time just to bring everything together and make sure that every time you look, you find something new and something interesting that catches your eye.
It smells very tasty as well, but you can smell it, of course. And could you tell us as well, what are you making here today? I believe you're also making something,
Absolutely.
Right?
Not only today, but also tomorrow, I will be working on the logo, the Ouroboros from Elder Scrolls Online. Today is going to be mostly the basic shapes, trying to get the entire shape very nicely fine-tuned, and then afterwards, tomorrow, we're going to be more into detail and eventually also coloring. So it's going to be the size of a steering wheel, so it's going to be pretty sick.
Good to see it. Oliver, I want to thank you for your time and to answer some questions.
Thanks so much.
We have another surprise for you, because I believe Amy is currently with our very own Athelia cosplayer. So off to you, Amy.
Thank you so much, Julian. I'm here with local cosplayer Sakura, who has made this incredible cosplay and display. This really is an amazing, and I have to ask you, can you tell me a little bit about what went into making all of this?
Oh, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, especially tears. We had an amazing team working on this. A Little Gem from the UK, as well as Heart from the UK. It was amazing. They all spent a week and a half to just put this together. We all cried about it because it didn't go as planned, but in the end, I think it looks really great, and I'm really happy people get to take pictures with it.
It came out incredible. And can you tell me how you even start planning something of this scale?
Well, when I saw the design, I was like, okay, she looks really badass. Those wings are amazing. And at first they wanted me to carry them on my back, and I was like, well, with the way I am and how I'm really energetic, I will like hit people and just like floor them. So I was like, maybe statue is better. So we planned for this because we wanted people to be able to take pictures with it. And I was like, it's a lot nicer. So we started the process, and then we're like, it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And they're like, can we do them a little bit bigger? We're like, okay, fine. And at the end, we started crying because it was so huge, but we're happy with it.
It's incredible. And I got to say, like, it's amazing that people are going to be able to use it as a photo opportunity here. It's such a cool feature. And you've spent all this time now inhabiting this character and really trying to hum her. So I have to ask you, everybody has their own Athelia theories, and here's my question. What do you think? Is she a good Daedric prince or a bad Daedric prince?
Ooh, okay, so I like a bad boy, so I hope she's a little bit bad, but with a good, like, you know, morally gray kind of character. Like, I hope so, but we don't mind her if she's bad. She looks good, so we will go with it.
Well, we will find out when Gold Road launches later in June. For now, the ESO Origins panel is about to kick off, so we're going to head back over to the stage in just a minute. And as a reminder, we're going to be giving away that Xbox controller a little bit in the show after that happens. So stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss it. We're going to head on over to the stage now and catch that panel.
Back again. Couldn't get rid of me that quickly. So I'd like to introduce our next panel. This is the origins of ESO. This is going to be a really cool kind of behind the scenes look at early development stories and videos and assets that we've never shown from early development before we released on beta. So I would like to of panelists. We have Matt Fire and Pete.
I'm Rob. I almost fell down.
Yeah, you did.
I was saying earlier, it's a little slippery,
Very slippery.
The cowhide. All right, so Matt Fire, of course, our head of ZeniMax Online Studios. We have Pete Hines, Bethesda veteran, ESO friend, and super fan of ESO. So Matt, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background of the industry, and a little bit of your history?
I talked about it a little bit in the keynote, but I was a game developer in the Washington, D.C. area where Bethesda was. I was at Mythic Entertainment in the 90s and a couple companies before that. Again, everybody knows me for working on Dark Age of Camelot, which was Mythic's biggest game. We had tons of other games before that that really nobody ever heard. Although we did do a game that was big in Germany called Spellbinder. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but
I remember.
Hey!
Okay, there we go.
Oh, it's just Siege.
Yeah, much bigger in Germany than it was in the U.S., but there we go. Thank you, Europe. My ego is now
Faded.
Now good. But yeah, so I was already in the D.C. area, right? So, and Bethesda was in the D.C. area. So there were only two or three game studios there. So there was some kind of, we hired some of their people, they hired some of our people, right? So we kind of knew each other.
Yeah.
But my journey was online games in the 90s leading up to the MMO at Dark Age Camelot.
Now, Pete, what did you know of him? When did you first meet him?
I didn't meet Matt until to him as part of the project that we're here to talk about. I mean, I knew of Matt because, as he said, like we had, had folks from his studio interview with us for roles. We knew of them, as he pointed out. There's not a lot of us in the DC area, so we tend to know about each other. But it was one of those, like I knew of him, but we hadn't met or chatted at all before we started down this path.
How could you not know Matt? So, Pete, why don't you stage for everybody? We kind of transport ourselves back to 2007. What was happening with ZeniMax during that time period?
It was fun getting ready for this panel to actually go back and look. Like, shit, I don't know what I was doing 17 years ago. That was a long time ago.
I don't even know what I was doing 2 days ago.
But when we started the conversation around like maybe we should create an MMO studio, or we want to make the Elder Scrolls Online. It's important to note here, by the way, like Rod Altman, who was our chairman for years, passed away right before the Xbox acquisition. Like, he is the reason that this game exists and that all of us are here. Like, Robert's passion and belief in this project before it ever came was completely unshakable. He knew that if you find the right people with this brand, and he saw what a good MMO, what a successful MMO could do, he was just dead solid certain that it would be a runaway success. Now, I'm not sure we did as good a job convincing them as we could have, like how terrifying this is going to be and how hard this is going to be. Because you have to remember, like 2006, we had shipped Oblivion, right? Game of the Year. It was really successful, but like Bethesda is 80 or 90 people, and like the entire publishing team is 10 folks. We didn't even publish Oblivion ourselves. 2K distributed it in North America. Ubisoft did the PlayStation version, so we hadn't even reached the point as a publisher of we get our own games into the store directly. We had to work with somebody else, and we shipped Oblivion. Like, that was myself, Aaron Losey, Ange, and marketing artists. Like, that was the entire marketing PR events team for Bethesda. So the idea of signing up for MMO and talking to Matt about what this was going to require to support was terrifying, because we had finally reached the point of feeling like, it's going to sound a little silly, but we literally felt like we're not about to go out of business anymore. Or like we're not.
Take a breath, right?
Because I started in '99. Morrowind was not easy from a development standpoint. We were running lean. ZeniMax had acquired Bethesda when Bethesda was in trouble. I mean, I can say that. They were bankrupt. They were out of money. That's why ZeniMax bought Bethesda. So to get from where we had been to finally feeling like, hey, like, we're all going to have jobs next year, and like, we've gotten good enough at this to keep this going. The idea of taking on something that is hundreds of millions of dollars and years of investment to even just get out the door was terrifying. But again,
spoiler alert, it's very complicated to make games like Elder Scrolls.
I mean, it's complicated to make games. We knew enough to see, you make a single player thing, how Terrago, right, technology, everything else, you add into that game as a service, it gets equally knee-knocking.
What were you thinking?
This.
I was thinking this.
We were thinking this, and someday
this is why we did it, right? It's like...
So, Matt, what were some of the initial conversations that you had with ZeniMax once you kind of joined board?
Well, first of all, I was hired to start ZeniMax Online to make Elder Scrolls Online. If you know anything about me, you talk to me for more than 4 seconds, you know I'm the world's largest Fallout fan. And I really wanted to do a Fallout game, but Fallout 3 hadn't even launched yet. That's how long ago this was.
Yeah.
Like, this was a long time ago. And they were like, we don't even know how that's going to do yet. Just work with Elder Scrolls. It's fantasy. It'll be much easier. And of course, it was the right decision. But
well, and I remember even online, a lot of people were guessing, like, it's got to be either Elder Scrolls or Fallout. So,
yeah, well, that was the only two IPs I think.
So that interplay Fallout MMO, that didn't scare you off? That wasn't...
No, I actually was working with Interplay to get the rights to Fallout to make my own Fallout Online when you took the rights away from me.
That wasn't me. That was Todd Ball.
And then I had to join Bethesda, and 17 years later, I still haven't.
Our plan worked.
Yeah. Anyway, so I talked a lot with Robert Altman and Jamie Leader, who's the president now of Bethesda and of ZeniMax, and really it was a conversation, because it was like, do you really want to do this? Because if you're going to do this, it's going to take a big team, a long time. The 2007 technology was kind of evolving and changing, so we knew that it was going to be, we couldn't make it like the same way we had made Dark Age of Camelot, which was kind of in the cowboy days of 1999 and 2000. So it was going to be a big deal, and I wanted to make sure they knew it was going to be a big deal. And so Robert's idea was, hey, let's look at what Blizzard did. They had Warcraft, they had this great fantasy IP, they made a couple of Warcraft games, and then they launched that into an MMO. And his idea, Elder Scrolls, was that kind of IP, right? You had Morrowind, then you had Oblivion, and then the next logical step, you would think was Skyrim, but ESO was actually greenlit before Skyrim was, and so that was the plan.
It's a good plan.
Yeah.
Matt, did you have a lot of experience with the Elder Scrolls IP before all of this?
Yeah, so I am, if anything else, a 90s game person. So I played the shit out of Daggerfall, which if you haven't played, I mean, it's a little long in the tooth now, but that game in 1998, that was mind-blowingly large, and it was an amazing, amazing game. I hadn't played Morrowind because we were in the middle of Camelot's launch and getting Camelot settled when Morrowind launched. So, of course, I knew Morrowind is the game that all of my developers at Mythic were playing obsessively and not working on Camelot. So
I feel like we took your productivity down a notch.
You did take it down a notch, yes. But it all worked out in the end. So, you know, I hadn't played Oblivion at the time because I just didn't have time working on Camelot. But, of course, after I was hired, then I played that game through many, many, many times.
Yep. Yeah, Oblivion was actually the game that got me to buy an Xbox 360. And I don't know if you all remember, back in the day, you couldn't just go online and buy a console. You actually had to, like, go camp for a console. So I was camping out at Costco overnight for a 360.
Worth it, though, right? Worth it.
It was worth it, I know. All right, so obviously we have this MMOG. We're leveraging the existing IP, which is the Elder Scrolls. You probably had some really interesting conversations with Pete, with Todd Howard, just trying to figure out kind of what to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the first time Todd's name's coming up here, but obviously he was involved in the discussions. Really, Todd went to his team and, hey, we're doing this thing. We're going to start this new group. They're going to work on our IP, and you're going to help this new group, right? Because it was exactly the right message to send. So I actually spent the first 3 months of my job at Bethesda working with Todd's group. I sat in the basement, which is where his the BGS crew was back then.
I mean, that's where we all were.
Yeah, right. In the basement, down in the dungeon, and I sat there for 3 months, and we worked with them on the IP. How can we make a great, not only MMO out of this, but make a great Elder Scrolls MMO out of this? And so, that was what the game set in. This is why ESO set 700 years before Oblivion, because we all looked at the timeline, and the Second Era had some lore, but not a whole lot. And Todd, you need to be able to tell your own stories, create your own characters, work on that for yourself. So we're going to give you this chunk of time, and so that's where that came from. We set up the alliances and the Alliance War, based on kind of the geography of Tamriel, and made the decision to turn Cyrodiil into a giant battleground because it was a time when there was a lot of warfare in Cyrodiil and the lore that existed. So then obviously Pete and I spent a lot of time together figuring out how the IP will evolve and how are we going to represent the IP in an online world, which was very, very, very single player up until then. And no Battlespire doesn't count if anybody actually played Battlespire. So
they didn't. Look, not a single person said anything.
Yeah. This one guy laughed though.
But that was a lot of it, right? Which is, as Matt said, BGS is deep into Fallout 3 development when this conversation is going on. Is also aware what the team is doing next, right? He has an idea. It's called Skyrim. Like, here's the high-level pitch. Conan the Barbarian in the mountains and snow fighting a dragon. And so for Matt to be able to have a space and to understand, hey, what am I actually allowed to do that doesn't change the rules for when you decide you want to make your game, or vice versa, right? Like, God forbid, as it turned out, I come out after Skyrim, right? Like, this all lore-wise has to be consistent and not box anybody out from
Yeah, the two rules were Second Era and no dragons. So it took 2019 for us to get dragons in the game with Elsewhere, and that's because of Skyrim.
So we know that you had to stick to the original races from the Elder Scrolls, but was there other kind of requests that they asked you to do to avoid sort of breaking or bending?
It was more stay on Tamriel, right? And Tamriel, for all of you know, because you're all Elder Scrolls experts, is a continent. It's not the entire world. But my mandate was to stay on Tamriel. Don't create new land outside of Tamriel. But you can go to all the planes that you want. Ended up doing, and of course with Falgrave we actually added a new Daedric plane, which was awesome, which we were allowed to do. So since Oblivion is essentially infinite, we have a lot of leeway there.
I mean, this this is a pretty major project, right? So let's be real for a second. I'm sure you had like some doubts or some worries due to how ambitious this was going to be, right?
All of them. I had every worry you can possibly have, given what that period of time from 99 to 2006, end of 2006, early 2007 looked like. And, to Matt's point, like Warcraft was a couple of years old and, was looked at as the big six. But the highway of MMOs was littered with the bodies of failed projects that, those folks know MMOs and that's a really good IP, and they all crashed and burned. And like that was where our focus was, which is like, hey, we just got to a point of feeling stable, and now we're dipping toe into a kind of game we've never done. To Matt's point, like we haven't even done multiplayer, not dedicated server stuff. Right. So just like our whole approach, and I think this is why like Matt decided to take the gig and why he felt comfortable, is that we were pretty brutally frank with each other, like Todd Howard, Todd Vaughn, myself, and Matt with each other, and with Robert and the rest of the company, to say like, if we go into this, it has to be eyes wide open. Like you have to understand how badly this can go, how much longer it can take than we're already planning. It's going to suck before it even gets close to being fun, because it's just going to be nonstop, like chasing and fixing problems endlessly. And I think like that approach really served us well, because it didn't all go according to plan, and we had to pivot over and over again. But I think one of the things about us then and still now is we had we didn't like to win, we hated to lose. We hated losing, and we were just determined, like we're not going to quit on something just because it didn't go. Like if it's a good idea and it's worth doing and we just screwed up because of the execution, then fix it. Yeah. But don't just quit because it got hard or it didn't go according to plan, because we were so small, like we couldn't afford to place bets on stuff and go, oh, we're just going to cancel that project and abandon it. We did, but when stuff was like, that's not recoverable, like part in the path, because again, the size of this 7 years and the amount of work it took, and like just take for a second to appreciate not just at ZOS but across all of Bethesda and ZeniMax, the number who have been pulling on the rope to make this game, and the way that they live it. I mean, like I get to show up to an event like this now and just wow, like holy crap, look, this place is amazing. The care and attention to detail from the game that everybody from the studio to Bethesda, from John Lander to Jordan to Ryan, I mean, it takes a lot of people to make a game like this work. It's not just developers do their job like we're done. Like, well, no, that we still have to get it outdoor, promote it, get all these people to show up and play it, and to see what those people overcome, how they stuck together and tackled every challenge that's been put in front of them is one of the most rewarding things in my professional career, for sure.
Yeah, and in those early days, while we were contemplating this, there were definitely conversations like, hey, we just finally got some money with Oblivion, don't F it up, right?
I mean, that was an employee sentiment, right? Inside of our company. It was like, hey, are you? Like,
we are funding you, so don't mess it up.
We just got here,
That was
there's some pressure.
I think the first time I met Robert, it was at the QuakeCon where we first showed off ESO publicly, and I was explaining to him like what we were doing there, and we were going to show this, and we're all really excited. We've been practicing really hard, and he's just looking at me, and he literally said that. Well, don't F it up. He actually, said the word, and I'm like.
Yeah, I mean, I remember very clearly when we finally got to the point where we were setting a date for launch and starting on the road, and Robert was like, all right, you got funding, you got employees, you got an IP, you got an engine. I have set you up. It's on you now.
Yeah.
And
no pressure.
Yeah, but I mean, that was actually great, because what he was saying was not only don't fuck it up, he was also saying, like, we got you.
Yeah, whatever.
But now we handed you the baton and you have to do your job.
He trusted you.
He was very big on, like, claim to be an MMO expert, but when Matt would say, like, we need this or we need to do that, Robert was like, I don't want you to have excuses like why we didn't succeed. And look, we had a PC launch that didn't go perfectly, right? But it's true. But you know, out of that, and Robert was unequivocal. Like I remember vividly that first meeting afterwards, and we're digging into the numbers on launch and so forth. And there wasn't the vaguest notion of like, you know, are we done or is it over? His whole thing was like, so how are you going to fix it? How are you going to address their complaints? How are you going to make it better? Like, how do we get that on console? Like, just fix it.
I totally went into that meeting, and we've been in the industry a long time, and you know, after you have a launch, and it wasn't a failure, but it wasn't awesome either. It just didn't hit the numbers that they thought it would. Like, and you go to headquarters to have a meeting with the boss in a big boardroom, right? And you know how those meetings usually go, right? And so but we went, Robert was like, all right, we got some problems. Now you're going to tell me how we're going to fix them, right? And that's how the meeting went. And that is the, it just does not happen in the game industry.
It's
and
just
you know,
how it was,
I'm here to tell you that I think if that meeting happens at most other publishers, if not all other publishers in this industry, that game might have been done then. And again, to your point, not because it wasn't succeeding, but just the level to which it was succeeding and what they expected or wanted. Like, well, what they wanted is this, right? Where we are now, where the size of this community and the passion and how the game has grown. But we definitely did not have that in the beginning, and there was no looking for an exit or a way out or like, well, we tried and it didn't work. And quite honestly, like Robert didn't really care about like, he didn't want to hear any complaints. Like, yeah, we got lots of problems here. Complain about what? How are we going to fix it? Like, it's just work. Figure it out. Do good work, and let's get ourselves out here. And we did.
And sitting here, right, in the middle of an amazing 10-year anniversary fan event, right? It's like it's easy for us to talk about this, but it was a tough time. It was a hard time, but we got through it.
Yeah. Now, Matt, going back to when you first started the studio, what was that like, kind of just starting up a brand new place?
Well, again, we worked for 3 months with Todd Howard's team while we had while I worked on getting a core group of employees, which you do when you start a project like this. You get about 20 people, and you find the people you've worked with in the past. So I hired some from Mythic. There were a couple from already at Bethesda that we hired. Lambert was already at Bethesda when I was hired. And Todd Howard was like, I got this guy, this producer on Oblivion, and he really likes MMOs, and he keeps bothering me about them. So can you just take him and do what you guys do?
I remember that. I remember that too. Actually, Rich did not hide his love for this MMO and wanting to work on it from anybody, for sure.
Yeah, and we had the tech director at Sauce, and up through and after launch was Amy Dunham, and she was already at Bethesda, but she'd worked for me at Mythic. And so, and she left because she didn't want to work on MMOs anymore. She was only there for like 3 months, and then I showed up at Bethesda, and she's like, "Oh man!"
I'm back.
So, and another, I think, 8 or 9 years for her on the game. That is our first in Hunt Valley, Maryland. Yeah. So it was already a Bethesda office. That was where they did their drag racing games.
Yeah, we had like
there were 3 people.
Games. Yeah, it's like a 3-person team up there making a drag racing game.
Yeah, so we moved up there. And our team started, and the first hire we made when we went there was a receptionist, which was Gina in 2008. So Gina started our reception, and of course worked her way up. You see where she is.
So when you
original team member,
your
number 6.
Yeah,
number 6.
Number 6 or 7.
Nice. Yeah. So how big is your studio initially? Like what size did you sort of grow it to?
We grew to way too many for that space.
Oh, we had people sitting in the hallway next to the bathroom on folding tables. Like it was. Hey.
But it's not it's not like
he was there.
It's not like 200, right? Yeah, like it's like 20, 30 people somewhere in there.
Yeah. It was very crowded and very smelly. But
well, there were only 2 bathrooms, and they were unisex. So like, you know, I was the only woman for a long time, and boy, let me tell you, I would frequently walk across the street to Starbucks and use their bathroom.
Yeah. So, but you know, that was how startups worked, and we got our bigger office built out, and then we were off and running after that.
Now, Matt, I imagine for kind of core team, you had has already kind of wanted to tap, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, I had people from Mythic. I called people I knew from other companies. Andrew Boyd sitting in the front row there, who I knew from Kesmai many years before. So he came on board. It's just funny how game development works. You run into people everywhere that you worked with. So, but really, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up to actually work with people that I wanted to work with, build a team that I could build from scratch. I mean, I was the only person when they hired me, but have the backing of a game developer, not a VC, not a venture capitalist, but someone who had been through the wars a few times, understood how game development worked in general. And I mean, it was the perfect setup to do a game like this, right? So, that led to this, right? It's like, this, but as the foundation, built us, and then now we're all here 10 years later.
That is the
smiling.
least straight line in the history, somehow, some way.
Yep.
So, Matt, let's pivot and discuss what ZOS and EMI as a whole kind of set out to create with a game like ESO.
Well, I mean, this is going way back, and I think Andrew's going to rush the stage and start stabbing me when I talk about this. But early vision for the game was, remember this is 2007, right? Oblivion was Elder Scrolls. There were only subscription-based MMOs, right? Just put your mind back there if you're old enough. So the original idea for the game was literally from WoW, take like the super accessible nature of the game. Like it's just fun to get in and play. PvE's fun. From Dark Age Camelot, of course, take the PvP system. And then from Elder Scrolls, which at that time was Oblivion, the world, the setting, and the feel, the characters, right? So it's really WoW plus Dark Age Camelot plus Oblivion, and that was the game. And we worked on that game up until 2011. And
what happened in 2011?
I know there's a graphic for this because my reaction on 11/11/2011 on 11/11/11 was Skyrim launched, and it was literally the best game of all time. And it was literally an Elder Scrolls game, and I was working on an Elder Scrolls game, and it was very clear after about 2 weeks that no one was going to play a WoW plus Dark Age Camelot plus Oblivion game, and we had to totally rethink what the game was. Keep the game world and the stories and the quests. That was my reaction.
I have to follow what?
Yeah, exactly. Making an MMO from scratch with a team from scratch and then following one of the best games of all time is really not the faint of heart. But so we had to peel back the layers around our great content and add the layers back in and make them more Skyrim-like. And so the game between early 2012, literally March 2012, we had a giant team meeting and had a new vision for it. Was basically Skyrising ESO. And all of you people that played in the early days of launch knew we hadn't gotten there yet, even when we launched. And it really took up until one Tamriel to make that a reality.
So, like Matt, when you're playing Skyrim and thinking like, oh shit, we got to change some stuff. Like, what?
No, I was saying no shit. I was saying this is an awesome game.
What jumps they did in Skyrim that you were like, this fundamentally is our approach and what we're doing in Elder Scrolls?
It'd be weird, but the answer to that is everything, right? It was like the freedom to just walk around and do what you wanted and pick up any sword, wear any armor.
We didn't have that at first in our game.
No, we didn't have that. It was very much a WoW Dark Age Camelot game, right? And so the ability for any class to wear any armor, that came from this pivot. It wasn't like that before. First person, UI, no tab targeting, right? So in Skyrim, this is game designery here, but in Skyrim you play in the world. You don't play the UI. You really almost never look at the UI in Skyrim, because why would you? Because everything's right there in the world. So ESO at the time much Dark Age Camelot based and WoW based, where you play the UI, like a button lights up, you hit it, and it's like that. It wasn't fun in the Skyrim world. Yeah. So that's our UI changed completely. We went to a very small button bar. We added the graphical tells when a monster's about to do a heavy attack on you, and that all came from that. So you could look in the world and see what was happening and not look at the UI.
Stupid question, but had we decided to do consoles by the time Skyrim came out? I don't remember when
It was after Skyrim launched and sold dozens of millions of copies. Robert was like, "Hey, we got to do a console version." So, yeah.
On top of everything else you're trying.
On top of everything else,
you got to do.
Let's launch on console. So, and that of course took years to do too. So, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, I remember something you had talked about early on as part of kind of like our design decisions or philosophies was this rule of 5.
Yeah, this goes back to an earlier iteration of, and game designers did this. They still do it a little bit today, but in those days, you're setting up a new game. There's something called the rule of 5s, which is what makes your game fun for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years. There it is on screen. And for ESO, right, we didn't have to change this a whole lot, and it has to look great, it has to feel good, it has to have great content and storytelling. The PvP system has to be awesome, and the most important part, the 5-year part, is of course all of you, because if you have a great community, then a great community will make sure that it's always a great community, because you welcome the players into the game, it's welcoming, and we had designed, ESO to have the best community that we could with the way the guild system works. And but the reason why people play ESO for years and years and years is you, and that's just the way these games work. And we were acknowledging that right from the beginning.
I think you all should give yourselves a round of applause, right? I mean,
yeah.
You are what makes the game right now.
Well, and for as much as the game changed, not just over the last 10 years, but over the last 17 years, because even before we get to launch, how wildly that game changed and iterated, all of the stuff that you all added after Skyrim that did make it into the game before launch, plus all the stuff afterwards. But there's still that core, Matt, that kind of never, right? Those basic things of like
storytelling,
visually, like it's got to draw you in and give you a sense of place. It's got to be storytelling, and the way you all sort of leaned into, like, it's got to be about the player deciding how they want to play the game. Like, we can't mandate or take away choices. I mean, that was one Tamriel was the final thing of like, we're getting rid of the rules about, you can't do, because Elder Scrolls fans don't like can't, right? I can't climb, I can't jump, I carry a spear.
On that mushroom.
Rewrite. So,
don't say spear.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
Do not say spear.
Believe me, I know. I have those battle scars. But the fact is that because that's what Elder Scrolls was really about, right? Like the mechanics of it can change a little bit from game to game. Those core tenets, it feels like they were there from the start, and they've been there all through, even if everything around it, whether it's character models or how interactive a place is. Because to Gina's point, like I remember going into places before and like going around, what can I click?
Yeah,
nothing.
We didn't have that. Yeah, we
actually
hired a bunch of interns. We called them click turns, and their job was to add little things that you could click on.
So when you go around the world and loot things, like you loot urns and stuff, none of that was in the game before 2012. And we actually hired 8 or 10 interns that just went to every room in the world and added clickies to that.
Make it interactive.
Yeah, and then we designed that so it could feed into the crafting system. That's where that comes from.
Yeah.
So, from Skyrim. Thank you, Skyrim.
All right, well, we're going to say thank you to you both now for sharing these incredible stories that, I mean, we've never really been able to share with everybody before. And it's just been really special to have Pete here again and to have Matt here just reminiscing and sharing all of this.
And Gina, she was there too.
Oh, thank you.
From the start.
Yeah.
So, we are going to take a super quick break, and in just a moment we're going to bring out some other folks from the ZOS Dev team to talk more about pre-launch days. So sit tight, and we will be right back.
The storm is coming. The scent of war swirls in the air. As the imperial throne lies empty, the fate of all Tamriel rests on the strength of a common prisoner's soul. Eve awakens. A long-banished foe stirs. Those who would destroy Tamriel seek out dangers to their dark plot. And so Death's long arm reaches out. It is the 582nd year of the Second Era. The drums of war are sounding. This is where our journey begins.
That was a work in progress video, right? That wasn't even our final video that we released. So little peek there.
Sorry, CJ.
Something from the vault, right? So we are going to continue on our discussion of the origins of ESO. Excited to introduce some new members here on stage. I'd like to introduce everybody first. So first we have our creative director, Rich Lambert. Have our lead gameplay producer, Yvette Nash. We have our live services director, Joe Burba. Joe's my boss, so if you have nice things to say, go find Joe after this. And if you don't have things to say, then you can find the exit. And then lastly, we have our lead combat designer, Brian Wheeler.
Yeah.
Now, you all have held some very unique roles over the years. It hasn't always been the one that you're in right now. And you've really played an integral part of bringing this video game to life. And we know that every team and discipline sort of has like an initial step when kicking off production of a game. So, Rich, let's start with you. As a designer for ESO originally, where did you start?
So I was actually originally a producer. So Matt and Pete talked a little bit about how I was a producer on Oblivion. And then when I came over, I wanted to really focus on the creative side of things. So I was actually the lead dungeon designer. Worked a lot on that. Worked with the tools and designing tools and things like that. So yeah, and then I went from there to lead content designer and then the creative director.
I actually remember very, very early on, we would play test your dungeons, and he put something in. It was the treasure chest.
Yes.
It was the treasure chest. So we would run around and there was always one treasure chest that was a trap, and it would blow up when you opened it, your entire group. He thought it was hysterical, but everybody else was like, maybe we don't want to do.
So many GNet bombs during those runs. So many.
Yeah, maybe a few. Yvette, why don't you talk a little about yourself, actually, and just your history at ZOS and in the industry?
So I started with ZOS in 2010. I joined as a producer. I've gone up the producer track my 14 years there. So I was a producer, senior producer, and now lead gameplay producer. I actually entered the industry as a computer programmer and with Entertainment. And Matt Fire was actually one of the people that interviewed me there and got me hired. So.
I remember Matt was also one of my interviewers, and he walked in and he was like introducing himself. Hi, I'm Matt Fire. And I just go, I know. What about you?
So I started about 12 years ago. I had actually worked at NCSoft on City of Heroes. For those of you who are older, remember that game, which was awesome.
It's a great game.
And
absolutely great game.
See, there's that one guy. But Paul Sage worked on Tabula Rasa, and after he had come to work at ZeniMax, every couple of months he would call me and go, "Are you ready to move to Baltimore yet?" And I was like, "No." Called me on a really bad day at work, and I was like, "Well," he was like, "Come for dinner," and so I had dinner with Yvette and Paul, and I knew I was home. So.
Yeah. The Wire, by the way, is the worst.
Yes.
I mean, it is called Charm City. So
that was a different kind of charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. I've been in the industry since '99. Actually, I started doing like late night tech support and help for people calling in about Morrowind, like way back then. But from there, I met contacts that got me into Mythic to work on Dark Age of Camelot and Warhammer Online. That's where I met Yvette. That's where I met Matt. A bunch of people back at the studio. And from there, they were like, hey, do you want to come work with us here at ZeniMax? I was like, okay, sure, let's give it a shot. And they were like, coming up, make PvP. Like,
yeah, make PvP.
Make PvP. Just get right to it.
Yep. Easy peasy. Yeah. All right, so Rich, going back into kind of dipping your toes into ESO, like where did you start in that timeline?
I mean, it was really small, right? We were really small, and we were focused on a couple of things. It was the lore. It was working with BGS on discussions. You know, I remember sitting in meetings where we were pitching things that had never been seen before in the lore. So, you know, the High Elves, for instance, you know, they had never actually been realized. And we're in meetings with Todd, and we're like, well, what does it look like? He's like, I don't know. You draw something, and I'll tell you if I like it or not, right? I'll know it when I see it. And so it was that kind of stuff because we were really forging ahead on things. And then once we started, you know, figuring out the lore and the stories and how that worked, then we started trying to figure out, like, how the heck do we build this? Like, we needed tools, we needed all kinds of things. And so I started working on a lot of that with a bunch of other people. And it's kind of crazy that most of those tools are kind of mostly intact now. And then from there, we started digging in on like pen and paper prototypes, where we'd sit down and we'd, God.
Oh, God. that
the original office.
Oh, my God. Where we would literally do like pen and paper prototypes of combat and things like that, and we'd sit down and
that
we'd
was
play.
You sitting there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us in there, actually. Yeah. You know, I think Andrew was in there, too. And then once we got all that together, we started, you know, prototyping in an engine. And after about 9 months, we presented something to the entire company, and nobody's ever seen this before. So take a look. This is what we did to kind of show off and prove to the studio and to ZeniMax that we could build something. And I haven't seen this in years. Oh my God. So you can kind of see, you know, Matt Pete talked about WoW with Oblivion, with whatever. And yeah, this is memories.
Very geometric. Yeah.
I remember seeing that, like when I got hired, and they were like, "Look, you can edit terrain on the fly."
Oh, the tools were unbelievable. Like
I was like, "Holy, that's badass!"
Yeah, like
get in that.
We could literally have a world builder check an area out, paint the terrain, rate and load, whatever, check it in, and everybody would see it instantly. No offline building. There was not like it was really cool tech.
It sounds cool to you. Everyone else is.
It was really cool tech. No lighting, no offline building, no waiting days for the next build. Like it was just there, and we could go in and we can iterate and prototype. It was amazing.
Wheeler, what about you? Like where did you start with all of this?
Oh, the start conversations were crazy about Cyrodiil because it was. When you look at Oblivion, obviously it's a much bigger space than just the space we have right now. And the conversations were, you know, Cyrodiil was a jungle back in the day. And we had to have many debates about, well, what does a jungle really mean? We had our lore master, Lawrence, kind of give me the green light of saying, well, a jungle can be interpreted as like it was the Wild Wild West. So it wasn't like, you know, it's a jungle out there. So that kind of gave us a bit of carte blanche to take the area and make it our own. And there were a lot of discussions back and forth with BGS about that,
too. Yeah.
Because they were like, you can't mess it up too much.
But look what we kind of did in Gold Road.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's a nod to the lore there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and we got a height map from them, which is basically a grayscale thing that we could import.
Oh, my gosh. Look at that.
Oh, look at this picture.
Look at that.
Yeah, this was an original, like, here are the biomes of Cyrodiil, and you get the Superman shape that we came up with because it had to be equal from all three sides. But you can see how, like, the bottom portion, we were like, it has to be very summery, and in the middle was autumn, and we had to have the Great Forest represented.
Right.
And of course, the snowy north.
What year is that from? That's like 2009?
Oh, God, that was 09, 010. So that was before we even had keys put into the.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was crazy.
Yvette, You're in the hot seat. Where did you start?
So I started early on with classes in combat. So it was interesting because even though there was so much discussion around lore and the classes, you know, the Elder Scrolls lore is so rich. Like, there was no reason to go lore first, classes. It was like, no, let's make the classes because the lore is just going to wrap around those classes. So the emphasis was, you know, the trilogy, tanking, healing, DPS. And at the time, of course, WoW was the bar, right? That's what kind of people knew the most. So there was a lot of WoW clones being made early on. And we were just like, this doesn't feel right. So the real challenge early on was, how do we get a test feel into the classes? The team had to really, really work on that for a long time. So it's very, very interesting.
A very long time.
Very long time.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
We'll get there in a little bit.
Now, Joe, you came in a little bit later once the game was sort of already in development. And so what was kind of your first step going into the company?
So working on the service, Bethesda didn't have a live service. They didn't really have customer service. They definitely didn't have a way to take money from customers. They definitely didn't have account systems or any of that kind of stuff that a lot of publishers, MMO publishers would. So we had to start there. We had to start from scratch and hire a bunch of customer service people and actually build a billing system, account system. We had to, get everything outside of the actual game experience. And then we had to be able to take the game from them and then,
run it.
And then build data centers and then put the game on the data centers and get that process to be reliable and figure out what to do if it falls over in the middle of the night. So it was a lot of, things that EMI didn't have that we had to put together from scratch. And as big of a job as that was for someone who has worked in the industry time, the ability to actually do that from scratch was a very intriguing to do.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to continue to kind of set the stage here. Everyone's got their worked out. Why don't you all talk us through how you worked harmoniously together, or maybe even bumped heads?
No, we did.
We did.
So beta, kind of where everything starts to come together. We had external play tests, CMI, but then we started to do friends and family and kind of that regular. And that's when, we've got everybody in the room together. We've got Ed Defoe and Amy Dunham, and Amy Dunham is like secret whispering into Ed Defoe's to do, and
we've got
Wheels in there and trying to keep Wheels from killing too many players.
Look, we only had so many GM accounts, and at least we had them, but we had to do things live back in the day, like hot live.
Yeah. So it was sort of the coming together of everything, and then actually being able to have players and start building that community out and making that what we wanted that to be. So that was a lot of working together. There wasn't too much headbutting in there. We were just trying to survive.
There was permissions. Like, if we had to fix a keep that was busted in beta, I was like, Joe, I need to change this. Joe was like, what do you need to do? I was like, well, it's all Mary, but it should be. He goes, all right, flip it. So during beta, if you were in the middle of the keep, not Chalamo, and it flipped on you by accident, my bad. Sorry.
Is it here in beta? Back in 2010? Oh, yeah.
Wow, look at
that. Yeah, nice.
Love it.
Now, Yvette, let's talk a little bit about naming the classes.
Naming classes.
That was a thing.
That was a thing. It's still a thing. 14 years later, it's still a thing. But naming aside, of course, we always want to keep with the lore and everything. But all that eventually got ironed out. But early on, Rich was our Mike Finnegan. So he was the encounter and the dungeon guy.
You were loud?
No, I was not that loud.
I was
never that loud.
Never that loud.
Never.
But
lies? Is that what I heard?
But Rich is trying to build encounters and he's trying to build dungeons, and the classes weren't ready. And so I remember feeling so bad because we would be having in meetings, he'd be like, what are we doing? Where are my classes? Where are the classes? And so that was always a really fun conversation.
It was so bad, I had to make basic, healer class.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
fighter class.
Some of the most fun, though. Like, Wheeler would be like, what do you need? I'm like, well, I need a tank, I need a healer, and I need a damage dealer. And so he'd be like, okay. And he'd go in and he'd whip something up, and and we'd play test it and be like, that sucks, don't do that.
Yeah.
And he'd go back and forth, and then he made this healer that was like, oh my god, let's do this, right? Like, it was awesome, and then things change as you progress through, and Skyrim came out, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, we had to flush those old ideas. Like, no, can't do that anymore.
Everything's different now.
Yes.
All right, well, let's pivot to talk about some pivots. We know in game development, not everything kind of goes as planned. Not everything goes swimmingly, right?
Yeah, Skyrim.
Like, Skyrim happens, right? I mean, things just happen, right?
Yep.
So working on ESO in the pre-launch days, can you recall any major pivots that actually ended up benefiting the players in the end?
Mega servers.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah, that's right, because we didn't plan on doing servers.
Mega servers. We were going to have a whole bunch of servers like some other out there. But there are a lot of, from a community perspective, ability to start on launch day and find your friends and play together. When you have 500 different servers and you're trying to, and they've all got lore names that you can't remember. And,
right.
Or
You have to coordinate with all your friends.
For,
Yeah.
you know, Elder Scrolls. Oh my gosh. You know, tech gets together and decides we're gonna do mega servers, and so that was a major pivot at the time, and
that was just a mind-blowing.
It was really hard on poor Wheeler.
That was a nightmare.
We want everybody to play on the same server.
Okay.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when that came out, and you were like, the whole thing came down of we need mega servers. I was like, all right, well, we're gonna have North America and Europe. We can't have literally an entire continent in Cyrodiil. And when we started playtesting with, you know, keeps and having physics stuff and just, we had playtests on a regular. We still have playtests on a regular basis in the studio, and we had Go Glade Mist set up in Cyrodiil, and we had a version of Cyrodiil that some people were on and another version that other people were in, and the walls were getting destroyed in version 1. And people were able to, you know, shoot through the walls and, you know, kill people fine when the walls got broken down. But in this one over here, the walls were fully up. But people were still getting shot through. We were like, what is going on? This makes no sense. So I had to
mega servers.
Yeah, I had to go talk to Ed, who's our lead engineer, and he goes, yeah, that's a problem. Because apparently they were sharing what we call a physics process, which is it knows the walls are there. And it thought the walls that existed here were over here. So people were like running through walls left and right in this one and going, dude, Wheeler, your stuff is broke. So that turned up where we had to come up with a campaign system and like having that stuff all split out. Yeah, oh God.
Look at that early
Reverse
on.
stuff.
Oh my lord.
All right.
This is when we first got walls breaking.
Oh my gosh.
And this is me doing my GM account movement stuff. But yeah, this was
That was
initially
early.
way
When did
back.
you sneak that in?
What?
When did you sneak that in?
I mean, I snuck in that gray box stuff. God knows how many years.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
You saved a lot of stuff on your machine
You did.
years ago.
Yeah. I have like the archive of all the old stuff from even back in 2009. I've saved everything. Every time I get a new computer, I have to have that hard drive like backed up and saved because of stuff like this where people.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about Skyrim a little bit earlier. There was a pretty major pivot, I think, thanks to Skyrim, right, that you had to help with.
Yes. So, you know, the combat system at the time was very button mashy, right? You're looking at the eye, your abilities are lining up, so very, very well.
That's how Yvette plays games.
That's how I play games.
That's how she types, too.
That's how I type, too, yes. So, of course, Skyrim comes out, and Matt alluded to this earlier. You know, in Skyrim, you're playing the world. You're not looking at the UI. You're not looking at mini-maps and things like that. And so the challenge became, how do we incorporate that into ESO? How are we going to make it so that you're playing the world? And so one of the programmers at the time, he was inspired by one of the Batman games at the time with the reticle system in that game. And he went off and prototyped it and brought it back, and we affectionately called it the column cam because that was his name.
Yep.
And so it was turned down originally, but as Skyrim came out, it just made sense.
Yeah, it
worked. The reticle system worked. The only major downside, which was another major pivot within a pivot, was that healing was broken. Like that the theoretical system completely changed healing in the game. So we had to start healing all the way from scratch again. So that was a major challenge for the team, major pivot, but they did it.
There was no more whack-a-mole, right?
There was no more whack-a-mole. No more.
It's not AAA if you
no more button pushy.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Rich, what about you? I know from the design side, I mean, there was a lot that kind of had to change, right? Thanks to Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons, right? Like, design-wise, it was, WoW meets Dayoc meets Oblivion. And then Skyrim came out, and it was very, very different, right? Like, it wasn't just walls of text. Like, it was super immersive, it was super interactive. We had to kind of pivot on things. And we had to go back to the kind of drawing board on how we told stories. No more kind of hub and spoke. We had to go back to something a little different where you just wander the world and find things.
Find stuff, yeah.
Which is interesting because that was one of the things we kind of like first prototyped way back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember Tulun. Way in the OG days. That was kind of that thing, and we ended up kind of going back to it, which was cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's funny. Like you can kind of see in some of the videos that we were showing, like the game just looked different back then.
Yeah, it was very
it played different, it looked different, and having to pivot is like an understatement. It's like you have this giant ship, and it's like, all right, let's start turning it now.
So our art style, like you kind of saw that in 2008 video, and obviously that was a rough prototype, but our art style changed literally 3 times. And Jared Carr, who's retired now, he came in and he basically redid with his team the art from basically blew everything out. They kept the major footprints, but blew everything out, redid it to what you see today. And they did that in like 18 months.
I think the Bretons were redone 5 times.
Yeah, like it was unbelievable how quickly they were able to redo it. And we have that same art style now.
That's a pretty major decision, though. Like, I mean, I know Matt and Pete talked a lot about how Robert really kind of trusted us to do what we thought was right for the game, but I mean, we're already years into development at this point, and making those kinds of decisions that affect, potentially years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
It is, and I mean, some of that is game development, right? Like, game development isn't an exact science.
It never goes in a straight line, right?
Like, it's never you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. It's you do this, oh shit, do this, right? Oh shit, do this, right? Like, that's just kind of what it is.
Producer's worst nightmares.
I was going to say, when you're kind of making those plans as a producer, do you pad the time to account for things like that?
You just cannot account for that kind of major pivot. You just kind of like, okay, well, now we're in April.
Let's just
start
throw
over.
it all.
We'll just keep going from here at this point.
Yeah. So we're going to give you a chance to kind of give yourselves a pat on the back a little bit. Why don't you talk about something that you did or that you helped with in the pre-launch days that you are particularly proud of? You want to go first?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So one of my literally my initial role when I came on board was the localization producer. And so I took really great pride in working with someone I worked with at Mythic as well, an outside consultant, and really, we wanted to make the game an X translation, and we really wanted to make an immersive experience for our German and French players. And then we decide that we're going to VO the game.
That's another thing. Yeah,
that's another.
It was not fully VO'd.
It was not fully VO'd.
It was great walls of text.
Oh yes. So we decide that we're going to VO the game, but the tech was timed in English. So our French and German VO actors had to fit their lines within the English VO time. They are the unsung heroes in the ground of the VOing. And let me tell you, it was quite the challenge. I'm really proud of how all that turned out, and it's amazing.
I still to this day have no idea how we did it. Like, it was literally one-shots. It was fire this line and wait till it was done and then play the next line. And that's how we timed.
Yes.
We totally didn't plan on doing VO at all.
And we literally had to export how long did the English take. And so actors could see, okay, that took 30 seconds, that took 15 seconds. And they had to practice practice in getting that VO in those time frames. So whether they had to shorten it or make it bigger, so it was quite a challenge.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Well, I don't know German, but I do know German words are really long.
Yes.
There's a lot of consonants in there, so
yes.
props to the VO actors for sure. I only know English, all right? So what about you? What's something that you're proud of?
I mean, just launching the game and, having everybody play and together. I think we had worked so hard for so long.
Oh, the old war room.
Is that shaving?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You have hair. You have hair.
I have hair in that picture. That's
Oh, I forgot about the head shaving.
Yep, and then one of our engineers had grown his hair out during the entire beta process, and it was launch day, so he cut his hair on that day. That's the guy who ran our knock cutting his hair. But we had worked so hard and for so long, and especially the last 18 months were pretty intense.
It was a blur.
Being able to get in the game with all of you and play together and make guilds, talk and just have time that first couple weeks, even though I don't remember a lot of it. Very tired.
You didn't sleep.
We were there
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Weeks. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was
Became
awesome.
very good friends.
This launching was awesome. It was such a culmination of so many people working for so long and so hard and pivoting so many times.
Yeah.
That was the original war room.
Yep.
Now we have the digital war room where we
Yes.
have to track so many more things now. So trying to get those communications fired off so much faster nowadays. We couldn't do it like that anymore.
No, not at all. No.
No way.
Wheels, what about you?
Honestly, the PvP crew back in the day making Cyrodiil was really tight-knit. It was a bunch of us that was a combination of a Mythic crew, but also some new blood that we hired. And getting done, we had a consistent rotating door of world builders that learned how to build PvP terrain, to work with all the crazy inlaid systems that exist in Cyrodiil, and everybody was bought into it, from me as the lead all the way down, all the way through QA. And I had to pay some form of homage to those guys and girls. So we had a lot of people in game. We have Yvette in the game barking orders at Greg and Ben doing laps in the Ebonheart territory. So if you know Nash UV, that's her. Yeah, a lot of
Nice.
We have a lot of dogs in Cyrodiil that are dedicated people. Rich's dog is in there. My dog's in there. Link. We have a lot of characters that are just echoed all throughout Cyrodiil. So I had a lot of pride in the gang, and they surprised me on launch day, and I didn't tell you guys this. They gave me a signed poster of everybody from the team of Iren, doing the charge symbol.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
I have it on my wall at home still, and the whole original crew signed it. So I was just ridiculously proud of them to get something as massive as Cyrodiil created. It was just special getting that out there for everybody to play.
I remember we were creating a video in Cyrodiil.
Oh God.
We had the whole company jumping in Cyrodiil, and somebody, I forget who it was, we all had desk phones at the time, and they put it on speaker.
It was Todd.
That's right, it was Todd. And it was kind of like a 3-2-1 go thing. We all had to run, I think, across the field. Or
we had to go jump over. It was the 2012 video.
Yes, it was that one.
Coordinate all that.
And I remember they were like, okay, now don't jump. Yeah. We just had to run, but it was hold still until they say go. And there was always one guy that was just jumping around.
And
then it really was. And it's, guys, we just want to get this video done. And it's there's the little guy jumping.
And you know how we fixed You know how we fixed that?
Did we just kick him out?
Todd literally walked to that person's office and ripped his keyboard out of his computer and walked away. Literally, that's what he did. He was so frustrated.
Well, because there's always, when you're going through a group, there's always, that one clown in the corner jumping around.
Everybody's smiling in the crowd. They're like, I know that person.
I'm that guy. Yeah. Rich, what about you? What's something that you're proud of?
Can I have two things?
Okay, we got time for two things.
Okay, two things. So I have kind of a dumb one, and then I have a good one. So
please, the dumb one.
The dumb one first, right? So as dumb as it sounds, I'm really proud of doors. The doors in ESO, it's kind of a developer joke. Doors are a lot harder than you think they are to do. But I literally worked with Greg Klein, who who's one of our lead artists.
Greg, I think, has been there longer than you, right?
He's been with the company for 22 years.
Yeah.
Or 23 years.
One of the few that's longer than you.
And he was actually one of the guys that was making the IRA drag racing game when I started up there. But Greg and I worked really hard on getting doors in the game because they weren't animated, they didn't do anything. And I built a test area that had 300 and some odd doors. Every unique door that we had in the game so that Greg could go in and add every single one of those doors.
I'm sure he loved you for that.
He did. And QA loved it too because then test all those doors because then we could just clone them and put them out. But I am super proud of getting us to launch was a huge thing. It was a massive thing. We worked really, it was 7 years. But I'm even more proud of it after, because Matt and Pete talked about launch wasn't exactly right. We were kind of this in the middle of MMO and Elder Scrolls game, and the team really came together. Like they were there, and they came together, and we picked action, and they all bought in, and they all jumped in, and they all did it, and they worked their butts off, and we're here now, 10 years later, with the success. So we couldn't have done that without Robert. Robert was the guy that said, "Go fix your shit." Right? I believe this. I want to do this. You guys have a core idea that is amazing. Go make it, and we did. So that's my most proud moment.
Yeah, really sweet, Rich. That was really nice. Yeah, I was going to say, let's give, not just Robert a round of applause, but everybody at the studio. Like, we know, you all are, and we have a number of people here lucky enough to be at Amsterdam at this event, but there's so many more at home, and hopefully, watching on stream. And we couldn't do it without them.
No, it literally takes a village.
Yep.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
there are so many people from QA to all the behind-the-scenes art folks to all of our CS folks, right? Like it just runs the gamut. Our engineering team, designers, like writers. It's huge. There's PR, there's sales, right? Like it just goes on forever. All the people that put this together.
The publishing team, the events team, there's so many.
It's a massive
right?
thing. And to be able to be together for as long as we have and make something that we have is amazing.
Yeah. All right. Last question. It's going to be a fun one. I'm sure the four of you have some crazy stories or maybe some fun memories from over the years, maybe something that we've never told anyone before, a little tidbit. And I think I'm saying on behalf of everybody that we would love to hear at least one thing from each of us.
One thing from each of us. Go first?
Or yeah, whatever.
Okay. So, how about Cadwell? So Cadwell, you all know and love.
Yes.
He wasn't actually originally a character we were planning on making. He wasn't part of the main story. He wasn't even an inkling in anybody's eyes. And then one day we found out that we were able to get John Cleese to voice, and we were like, oh shit, we have to use this. Like, he's such a cool voice. So we wrote him into the main story. And, at the time it was Win and Bill Slavisek spent a lot of time writing this character into the main story to make it fit. And you wouldn't know it now because he's so tightly integrated, but that was a pivot. Like, that was something special.
Yeah. You had something else, maybe?
I have a whole bunch of things. We've been working on this game for 17 years.
Just one more.
One more. How about Rivenspire? So Rivenspire is this really cool zone. It's kind of dark and whatnot. Super polished, super amazing, but it wasn't always that way. Internally, we call it Revisionspire because we literally bulldozed that zone like 5 times to get it right. And we have learned a lot in that time. Our processes have changed a lot because of that, but yeah, that was tough. I really felt bad for that team.
I remember the playtest, dude. It was like playtest. Rivenspire, we're like, shit again.
Shit again, exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
Joe, why don't you go next? I'm sure you got something.
So something that it's not really a secret, and especially if you played on the EU server at launch or in beta, is that the EU server, when we launched, was actually in North America. So
there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. We had some assorted mishaps. There may have been some server hardware that got hit by a forklift or something, because we had to order all this stuff and build all these, install them in the data centers, and all the things. It's a massive IT project, like Matt likes to say.
That was an expensive oopsie.
And it was a very
expensive problem.
Forklift pierces servers.
Yeah.
Not something you
so
hear.
Yeah, so in order to launch, we actually built the EU server in the North America data center, launched that way, and then about 2 months afterwards, we got it all, got all the hardware there, set it all up, and then took a maintenance, moved all the data over, brought it back up, and
it was just magic.
And then it just like magic. It works. Wheeler, you haven't gone yet.
So in development, there's up times and down times, but but you're still working on things. And between Cyrodiil design and Cyrodiil building, we had to make the character creation. And they were like, all right, Wheeler, you have some time, make the character creator. So I had to work with a lot of the artists. Tatiana was one of them on this. And she's a very animated person. And we were going through the character creator, and there were lots of sliders and lots of various ways to make your characters look back in the day. And this was like the OG character creator. And there were, that's the orc. But the triangle's still there. That is still to this day. But this was like the original character creator. And you can see some sliders there. But Tatiana was very like, no, we must have booty sliders and chest sliders.
I had a fin.
So
you're right.
And
tracks.
Back then, like when we were trying to dial in the values, like you could get some curves. So yeah, the character creator had a lot of evolution too, but that was a lot of fun to work with because it was out of the normal flow of things. Like it was, you go from making people kill each other to no, make them look pretty.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's see how this works. But it was really, really cool working with a lot of artists. But those sliders, man, you could do some hands the size of your leg, and just, it was a lot of fun doing.
Very, very exaggerated.
Yes.
Yvette, why don't you bring us home here?
So mine isn't a crazy story, and so like most startups, there's this family feel, especially when you're small and you're going through these pivots and these challenges, and people really come together. I really miss the ability that we had to meet outside of Matt Firer's office for our studio updates, for our sprint reviews. It was so nice because everybody was together in one area. And it just really, you felt the camaraderie, you felt the family feel, and I really miss that. So those are my fondest memories.
It was like this. Honestly, it was like this when you got in front
a little
of everybody.
smaller, yes.
A little smaller.
About half,
a lot smaller.
Tighter.
Yeah.
And we would meet right outside of my office.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
I mean, I remember really early on, we would just all get into your van and go to lunch. The whole company would fit in Rich's van, and we'd go get barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those were good times.
We would walk downstairs to the dentist's office because we could.
Yep.
All right. Well, super huge thank you to all of you for just taking the time and sharing some of these stories with everybody. I mean, I think I speak on behalf of everybody here. It was a real pleasure to be able to just hear some of this for the very first time and be able to, wasn't that a song?
Yeah, but it
feels like the very first time.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
But yeah, again, this is just, the early days of development we were talking about. We're going to be sharing a lot more over the next 15 months, celebrating 10 years of ESO. But again, thank you to the four of you. A big thank you to Matt and Pete from earlier for sharing things with us. We hope that everybody had a great time watching, both on stream and in person. But now, I think we're going to wrap up our live stream portion.
Okay.
And we're going to kind of get the party started here in Amsterdam. So, thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I am standing here with ZOS Studio Head Matt Firer. Matt, hearing about the origins of the game, everything that's happened the last 10 years, now standing here at this celebration event, I have to ask, how does it feel?
I mean, it's amazing. It's all about the people, right? And you get to spend a whole day with people that love ESO. It's amazing. You know, we did a stage show, a panel on the history of ESO, and it's great just talking about it with people that love and appreciate the game, because this game is all about the people that play it.
Yeah, and so of everything going on here today, what has been your favorite part so far?
Meeting the players, right? And because we're players too. We love the game as much as they do. We don't just work on it, we actually play it. So just sitting down and talking about the game and talking about our shared passion, you know, it makes it all worthwhile. We're the developers, so we sit in our office, you know, for months at a time, and coming out and meeting the players is like the highlight, you know, of the year for us. So I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the energy here today has been amazing. And so I know that you don't have a crystal ball and you can't share too much, you know, but I do want to ask, just a word or two, what does the next 10 years of ESO hold for us?
I've been asked that question a few times. You know, I think really if you look back at the last 10 years, you'll see that with ESO, we'll make changes when we think we need to make changes. So looking forward, who knows? But we'll change with the times as the times change. But for right now, we love what we're doing and we're not going to change it.
Yeah, amazing. And Matt, thank you so much for the
My
time.
pleasure.
It's been great talking to you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. I know that I will.
So much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a little bit ago, we gave you a look at everything happening here in person at the celebration, and I think in a little bit, Julian and I are off to try our hand at axe throwing again. But before we do that, let's give away that Xbox controller. We are giving away an Xbox Elite Controller Series 2. Type ESO10 in chat to enter and exclamation point rules to see full terms and eligibility. And while you're entering, I want to remind people, if you pre-order Gold Road, before it launches, you'll receive the Welkenstone Runes Wolf Mount. And whether you're a new, current, or returning player, there's a version of Gold right for you. So head on over to scrollsonline.com to find yours. And we showed you a sneak peek a little bit ago. The Gold Road Prologue Quest is now live in game. It's free to play. Head over to the Crown Store and grab the quest starter there.
Yeah, and don't forget that we're currently having our free play event that runs until the 9th of April. So grab your fans and have some fun together in Tamriel. And also, if the free play event isn't enough, there are also sales happening on all platforms with up to 75% off. Crown packs are also on sale, so be sure to check out those deals.
Thank you so much to all of our incredible partners who helped us make this event a success. Fun place to be. Speaking of which, it's time to give away that controller. We'll give it just a few more seconds, so if you only just tuned in, we're giving away an Xbox Elite controller. This one is themed to the ESO 10-year anniversary.
And if you haven't entered yet, type ESO10 in chat, all in one word. Get those entries in, and we're closing the giveaway right now.
And it looks like we have our winner. We'll be reaching out via Twitch Whisper shortly, so please keep an eye on your DMs. And while we're talking about giveaways, I want to remind everyone we have giveaways happening today and tomorrow across all of our social channels. So make sure you're following along there because we have a really great stuff that we're giving away.
Yes, and thank you to all of our wonderful sponsors for sponsoring a lot of the giveaways on social media and also here on site. That really helped to make this feel special. It was a pleasure to welcome all of the community to ESO in Amsterdam, and we'll have more information on upcoming in-person anniversary events in the future, so follow along on our social media for more info and keep an eye on our local Bethesda and ESO channels for more details. We have our local ESO 10 celebration in 2 weeks at Elvia in the Netherlands, and there are just a few tickets left, so grab those while you still can.
Thank you for tuning in and joining us for our 10-year anniversary live stream. If you missed any part of the stream, your opportunity for drops, or you just want to watch it again, we'll be airing the broadcast again at 3:30 p.m. ET. We hope to see you at one of our anniversary celebration events in the near future. And until next time, we'll see you in Tamriel.
Welcome back to ESO News. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the live stream over in Amsterdam. This is a little story that was unheard of when we all had to get into a semi truck to where we went to lunch. There was 500 of us. Went through a McDonald's parking lot in the semi truck. I was like, how are you gonna get a bunch of food? That took a couple of hours. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the drive here today, and I'm gonna take a quick break. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the day. I'll be right back. Just got back here, got some breaking news for y'all. Going over and getting ready to get into Elder Scrolls Wiki. There's some new and exciting information for you guys. I will be right back and gonna show that that's gonna be some sweet. It's about the about some Skyrim stuff. So I will be right back. Stay tuned. It's really, really, really sweet. I'll tell more story about the semi truck here later. Hope you guys have been enjoying your drive and day, thinking about Elder Scrolls. That's usually what's on my mind. If you're looking to get into the game, this is kind of the way that we're seeing a little bit of getting more further into Skyrim, what Skyrim holds. I'm going to show here, as you can check it out on ElderScrollsWiki.net, over in Skyrim holds. This is a really, really important thing, as you can just click on the button going in here into Skyrim holds. This shows the holds that are available in Skyrim. This is being developed further for you guys to see, both for the offline and the online, to where we get more accustomed, as you might be confused on Elder Scrolls if you've just tuned in and have never heard of Elder Scrolls before. This will kind of go into the online aspect here soon. Right now, currently, this is geared towards the 5th version, as you'll start to see this a little bit more in ESO as the years develop. The game is just beginning to develop as we're going into the next chapter of Gold Road. So this is an important step for us gearing towards Gold Road. Right here over in Wiki, it shows the Skyrim holds are considered the 9 government bodies of Skyrim. This is a great thing. If you like to play Parliament, Skyrim is a beautiful place to play government if you like playing that kind of thing. So basically, we're looking in here about the 9 different holds in here. I'm not going to go over the whole entire holds that are in Skyrim, because that will take too much time to talk about. And that can be talked about for years upon years, and continues on and on and on. This is some great stuff. How this explains how the game, these are literal game like live game pictures of the actual holds in the game in Skyrim. So when you go over into Elder Scrolls Wiki, you're going to be able to see this. These are the exact files of the game. This is some sweet stuff. And so when you go all in there and you look, this is going to be a lot of information to take in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to iScroll. I'm going to scroll all the way down. And what you can do is, if you're looking for more info with Skyrim, all you got to do is click on the click here button, and that'll take you over into the Skyrim section of Elder Scrolls Wiki here. Skyrim. I love this. I want Elder Scrolls. Hopefully you do too. Well, I'm going to take a really quick break. I'm going to be going off here soon and getting ready for the game here later on tonight. What will the game hold here for later on tonight? You can check it out at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully you guys have had a really good day and drive. I'll see you later.